folks. It is Hobby Talk with PSA Canada for November 17th, 2022. We are post-Expo. We basically picked up Brad. We electrocuted him so he could be upright, and here he is. How's it going, Brad?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Carlos and Luke. Yeah, it's been a busy week, that's for sure. Busy couple of weeks, but yeah, we're moving forward.
Yes. So I can testify, I haven't been around there, is that the PSA Canada booth at Expo. And we'll mostly talk about Expo, and we'll chat about whatever you guys want to chat about, so you can throw them in the comments. Otherwise, also, don't forget to hit the like button. I charge Eric for it. I'm still going to charge him for it. Very important post-Expo. And after that, also as well, kind of being around it, basically there was a lineup going a good chunk of the time, at least consistently moving forward, which is always good. But it was interesting. It was interesting to see how consistent it was, which is always a thing. Secondly, I make a point. I'm not sure what Yannick was actually asking here. This was an early comment, but I will say we have crossed 200 subscribers. So a little mini milestone for the YouTube channel. By the way, mentioned it before. I know there's some old comments in there. I'll get the team to go in and reply back to them. One of them actually I'll address tonight because we can handle that. So, but the other ones as well, if you do leave a comment in there, we'll do our best to get back to you. I want to make sure the PSA Canada team obviously is super busy right now, but I will go remind them to go back in because some of the stuff they have to answer for. I'm not around the office, so I can't answer some of those questions for you, but at least I'll direct it into their attention so you can get a response. So also Perfect. Eric is here and, sponsors the like button. So we do appreciate his presence. Luke and Saber, get rid of that other guy. Sorry, the other guy's the host. Oh, you mean the other guy. Paul here. Eric, how's my favorite faux Bruins fan? True. Eric was exposed. Hashtag exposed. That's a fake Bruins fan. He went to a Leafs game and he cheered, unironically.
And he may have worn a piece of Leaf memorabilia / items that I have a picture of that I'm sure it's surfaced out there, but I agree with Paul on that one.
Yeah. Well, listen, the man is, if nothing else, full of lies. Mm-hmm. We learn that more and more every single time. So Luke, real quick, I'll read the next comment here in a second, but how are things going for you just post-Expo? You were a busy man as well. You were at the booth manning it. How are things on your end?
Busy. I mean, I didn't take the cards back or anything, but I mean, I prepared for Vancouver, which I'm heading out tonight or tomorrow morning. So we had that show, and with that, we had returns of cards from that, and so Brad had to rush my cards out here, and then Sherry's bring some with her as well, and yeah, so hopefully we get 90% of all cards back there. So
no, very good, very good.
Been answering messages all day if they can go pick up their cards at the Langley show. So
that's fair. I'm with you. So this question here: can I submit signed tickets at the Langley show this weekend?
Yes, you can.
Very nice.
I should mention that too, Carlos. That Luke, obviously, he's leaving. Sherry left tonight. She's flying out to Calgary and then going out to BC. So she is on the plane. She has access to, she has access to internet on the plane, but she just texted me that she can't get on YouTube to check anyone's orders right now. So we'll have to bear with that and get there next week. So,
all right. So this week we won't do the order checks in the chat, but don't forget you can send it out to the email address. So just bear in mind that is an option for you. And that is another way that you can do it. And I'll also include the little scrolling thing there. So there's the Instagram, and it contains contact information and that, so you can use that as well. That's another avenue in which to reach out to the team. Now, what I'll do is we'll talk about Expo here, but before I do, I will share. We had talked about the website that they've been working on. So I'll actually bring it up here on the screen, and if you want to say a couple of words about it, Brad, we can at least present that to everybody. And then obviously as some adjustments and things get made, that'll be adding some more to it. But here you go. So the URL is PSA Canada altogether, psacanada.ca. You want to talk a little bit about the site here, what we're going to have going on and what the plan is with this one?
Yeah, so we're all up now. So it's making it easier with the amount of questions on how to submit, pricing, etc. So everything is active right now. The only thing that's not there is the order status, which we were hoping to have done by Toronto. But we simply don't have the manpower to actually implement that at this time. So when you look at it, we left for the Toronto show. We shipped every order out that we had. We brought every order we had to Toronto to give back to customers. Then we received 8,800 cards back this week, which we were able to get. We got back on Tuesday. We were able to ship all those cards out or invoice every single customer for those cards before Sherry took off at supper time tonight. And we probably have 15,000 cards from that arrived on my doorstep over the last week. and from the Toronto Expo as well. We don't have an official number on that, but maybe I might be pushing with the Toronto and the absolute craziness of the amount of orders we received. Maybe 20,000 cards in the last 2 weeks.
I wouldn't be shocked, yeah, because I would say like it was a consistent flow. Like I said, as an observer looking at it from the outside, it seemed like a consistent flow of cards. I actually had 3 separate orders because I broke it up into 3 pieces to cover different scenarios. So I had one specific order that was in bulk, trying to take advantage of that. I did have an order that was bumped up a level because of the cards in it, so it made more sense from that perspective. Again, you have to kind of take case by case. And then I had some cards that are basically crossovers, so to speak. So to put it that way, and that was its own thing. So I separated them out in order to make life easier and keep everything organized. So well, that's part of what we expected. So you guys can check out the site later on. We'll add a little more information to it. I'll add some info to it on the YouTube. It does contain some info here, and it'll obviously get refined as time goes by to add additional things. But you do have FAQ, some submission information, and contact info, of course. So that'll all be part and parcel. So it's a starting point, but at least it gives, that was one of the questions over the last couple of weeks. The folks were asking if there was a website, and the answer now is yes. So on the YouTube channel, I will connect it so that it is available so that folks can access this. And then as it gets improves and it gets better, then also you'll be able to check order statuses in the future. So that'll be step one is having the site up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let me read a couple of these here. Good evening, Yannick. Absolutely. So Josh says, did you get more or less cards submitted compared to the Spring Expo? So as you said, you don't have the numbers, but was it more than Spring Expo in terms of the amount of boxes and things you brought back?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's one we can answer for that. And then Bobby says, hey, I put 10 towards those numbers. Perfect. There
Nice.
Every little bit. Bobby Brell, good evening. So good stuff. So from that perspective, here's the question that I would have. And you're getting praise from Eric here in a second, so we'll get to that. But here's a question that I would have. Obviously, it was nonstop insanity in terms of just consistency. There was a lot going on and a lot of folks talking and lines and everything happening with it. But let me ask you this question, and I'll pose it to Luke as well. Is there anything? So it can be something that you saw, it can be a conversation you had, or it can be any other aspect of it. Was there anything that surprised you?
Yeah, there was some submitters that submitted with us that surprised me.
All right.
I was actually shocked. I had good conversations with all of them, and that would be my number one thing. Some of the naysayers or that didn't like our services or didn't even know who we were, but were kind of vocally against bulk submitters and group submitters and against us in a lot of social media places that actually walked up to the booth to submit their cards. So I had a great conversation with all of them, and I said, why would you use our services? And then one of them was really good. And I actually enjoyed my conversation with him. At the end of the day, I think he said, well, it's going to be cheaper for me and my items are going to be insured and I'm going to save money by using you. I said, exactly. So there's an advantage for using us. And he agreed. So I think we both moved on from that. And now I just hope to hell his cards come back in time and everything goes perfect. So
I was going to say, don't set yourself up too much. You got to make sure now you're going to have to stick the landing on that one.
Yeah.
So Luke, same question. Anything that surprised you? It can be an item you saw. It can be a conversation you had. It can be any. It really is a kind of an open-ended question.
What surprised me, I think, is a lot of people, they I don't know, they were okay with 120 days. That was what I was surprised about. They weren't like concerned about, they want it back in like 2 months or, as quick as forward. I mean, they're okay with it. And some people really care that it's 120 days. That's what I was surprised about. I think, a lot of them understand, and maybe, and they're all newer. So, I mean, maybe just they don't understand that it's 120 days or whatever, or that, how long that actually is. But I mean, I was just surprised with that for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like I said, one of the ways that I kind of present it, because it was funny, since I was by the booth a bunch of different times, there were some times where some folks were kind of waiting to kind of get some answers, and then they just looked at me and they're like, "How does this work?" And I'm like, "All right, here you go." This one. So, Brad, I took care of a couple of them for you, just to lay a groundwork for a little bit. I figured since I was around, I'd take care of a couple of those folks for you, to give them a little info to get them going forward, because reading a chart is hard. But the reality is a lot of folks are new to it. They're not super comfortable with the process. They're looking at it, trying to understand how to gauge certain things, like, how do you figure out what the declared value is? What should this go under, et cetera, what applies and what doesn't apply. And it's fair enough. Like, if you're not familiar with it, you should ask the question. You should get the clarification. You should get the comfort, and that's probably the best approach to it. Uh, so I think from that perspective, a lot of that makes sense. I like
I
this
agree.
question. So Sheldon Brown here. Good evening. Good evening. Any insider knowledge of when the cup is releasing? So Brad, when are you releasing it from the closet? When is the cup coming out?
I'm not sure. I don't think I get too much pull on that, but I do think it's going to be in December. I mean, I think you might even know more than that, Carlos. I know our
I
allocation.
know a guy. I know a guy. I haven't pushed for that information because obviously I'm not a buyer for the cup,
Yeah.
but I do know a guy.
Yeah.
I heard it was like
So-
January they're releasing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here's
yeah?
here's the reason. So I make the joke, Luke. And we can talk about it. Like a lot of folks that watch the channel, they know like there might be a representative of Upper Deck who occasionally comes by the live stream. So it helps to know. But the truth is, he's in the same boat as a lot of other people. It's not just like they will know when it is about to release, but the window is a lot tighter than people think. It's one of those things where even right up until I opened a couple of boxes of that AEW Spectrum of that product. I was a big fan of it, but we were waiting forever to get clarification. So when is it actually really? So finally, when the checklist releases, here's the tip that I got that has been fairly accurate. When you actually see the official checklist release, you're usually about 2 weeks away from the real release date. So whatever date you see out there, if you haven't seen an official checklist within about 2 weeks of it, it's going to be murky. But if you see an official checklist that you can find out there on the sets, the inserts, everything, then there's a really good chance you're probably a couple of weeks away. You're getting pretty close. So that's a good like rule of thumb because by the time they release that, it's usually within close proximity of the actual release date. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So
You know,
that would be a tip.
the other thing that people forget about too. Oh, we've got someone in the chat.
I got it.
The other thing that people forget about is from the financial aspect of it. Right now with Upper Deck Series, so all the products just came out. Extended came out now. Now you have Upper Deck Series 1 that just came out. People really boosted up their allocations. And obviously with the marketplace, you're not selling as much product as you did last year at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of hobby shops, I'm sure across the country, are dealing with issues with cash flow and how much product they have. And I said this going into the expo. You've seen Series 1 at a set price and you're just seeing it slashing. And people are like, well, why would that happen? Well, very simple. You had wave 1 and then you have to pay for it. You have wave 2, you have to pay for it. So there's only so much product that hobby and stores can handle. So I feel like even if the cup, I'm not saying this is happening with the cup, but if it does get pushed back a little bit, I think that's going to be a great release for January. That would be, I think that would be great news for a lot of people. So
yeah. And I think we were very fortunate for the expo itself. We were fortunate that Series 1 came out. So it's one of those things. So let me get to a couple of these because there's a couple of questions here that I want to get to. So we'll get to that here. So Eric here says, nobody worked harder than PSA Canada last week. I'm willing to die on that hill. Simply amazing by the team. Not Brad, though. He mostly napped. It has to include something.
Absolutely.
We'll take mostly praise. So we'll take mostly praise. So congratulations, Luke. That's praise for you. So Bobby here says, kudos to the PSA booth expo for handling the clients with grace and ease. Long days on their feet and everyone with a smile. Good job, guys. Kudos from Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
So this is one of the questions here. So one and only Hawk. Good evening. Hey, I submitted cards for getting Expo last weekend. Didn't include my city or province on the form. I did include everything else. So postal code usually helps. That's a good thing. I did include everything else. Will someone at PSA email call me later to confirm?
Yes, we will. So what we'll do is when the cards, once your order comes back, once we send the invoice, we will put that we're missing some information on it. So as long as we have your email or phone number, we're good. We did have some, not this time that I've seen so far, but last Toronto Expo, we did have some submissions with just a name with one name, no phone, no email, no city, which I think we talked about it maybe on the last show too. I think I still have 40 or 50 orders from the last Toronto Expo that we were hoping those people would show up at this expo, kind of walk up to the booth and be like, where's our orders? Where's my cards? And that didn't happen. So we brought back 40 or 50 orders that we still have of people. So
yeah, and I would recommend this. If somebody catches it later on, I would suggest that you look at the little yellow piece of paper you have, because you have a carbon copy of what you put on there. So you can actually double check just to see if anything is up, and you can be proactive as well. So like, since it's fresh and the expo just happened, maybe you got a couple of these lying around for maybe something you filled out. you can actually double check yourself, because sometimes people are tired. You know, they're filling out their stuff. They accidentally punch in something wrong. If it's wrong, you can actually reach out now and be like, "Hey, by the way, sorry, I got I got my paper here. It's the XYZ. This is what's in it. I just want to correct some information." So at least that way, it's at least known ahead of time. That way, there's no nasty surprises where you have to wait for somebody to reach out to you. So it's just something to bear in mind. So at least One and Only Hawk says email, phone, postal code is all in the form. So good. Yeah. So that should give them a couple of options to contact. So that's great. Good stuff. Good stuff. So that's perfect. Glad to answer that question. Now, question for you guys. Obviously, I know for the majority of the time you guys were out on the floor. Did you guys get any opportunities to wander a little bit, at least for a brief cup of coffee to get some air or anything?
Yeah, I did a few, not near as much as I always want to, because that's one of my favorite things to do is enjoy the floor and the other dealers. But we did have some time to walk around. We kind of broke it up a little bit, but it was definitely very brief. Kevin had a lot more time to eat supper and go on breaks than me and Luke did, but we'll give him that jab since he's not here. But not near as much as we wanted to. But we did have some times that I enjoyed seeing all the guys that I don't get the opportunity to see all the time.
Absolutely. Did you
Most
get,
of it is in
did
the
you get to
mornings.
visit a little bit, Luke?
Yeah, most of it in the mornings. You know, before the show started and stuff. I mean, I think we were pretty consistent throughout the whole time, and had to be, obviously we want to take care of the customers, right? We want to make sure that they're taken care of, and nothing worse than somebody getting mad because they're standing in line and being impatient, right? So we, but I mean, in the mornings we always got there like 8 o'clock in the morning and walked around and saw some of the guys I didn't never really see throughout the year, right? Except for at the shows. So
I do say the one thing to every person that waited and submitted with us, like, thank you all. I don't think we really had any negativity or people complaining. People were patient. And the other thing that they did, which was nice to see, me and you were talking about it, Carlos, before the show, is that it's like people realize, like, we're going to get everyone's cards. Like, we'll stay there as late as we have to make sure we take everyone's submissions. So early in the morning, you usually get that rush, and then you get the big lineup, and that always overwhelms. It's like even if you're at the post office and you're doing your mailing and you got 25 people behind you all staring at you, it can get a little overwhelming at times. So this time we said it a few times. We were like, guys, no problem. You don't have to wait. Go walk around, enjoy the show, come back. We'll make sure we get your orders. So it's almost like we had that steady 10 or 15 people waiting consistently, but it never got to that 50, 60 people. And it was nice. It was like the line would die down a little bit and people would see that and then they go in line again. So that was a great benefit to us, because it does get a little overwhelming at times, especially if people are staring while you're trying to answer questions. And we did not rush anybody. I think Kevin, Luke, Sherry did an exceptional job, taking that time. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, people are entrusting us with some of their precious goods. It doesn't matter if the card's $5 or $50,000, whatever it is. They want to engage and they want to feel comfortable. So if it's me pushing someone, trying to rush them, etc., then that's not going to help the situation. They're going to be a one and done customer. So we want long-term customers. I think it's actually staggering, to tell you the truth, at least 50, without exaggerating, 50 plus phone or either emails or text messages from people that I did not know that just said thanks. Thanks for taking the time, for talking to me and my wife as we sat there. And that was very nice. You go back to the hotel, you're exhausted, you're just lying there, and all of a sudden you see some of these positive messages come through about myself, Luke, Sherry, and Kevin. And that's very good. So I was very happy with how all that went.
Very nice. Very nice. There's actually a very good kind of comment that plays into something interesting as well. So One and Only Hawks here says that was the first submission ever for any type of card grading. Well, good. Glad the experience was good for you, and glad that they can take care of it. And it says here, what are some of the more interesting, cool cards you personally saw people submit at the expo? So I want to kind of break this up into two pieces. So that's, I think, a great question and a fun one. But let me ask you this question. Obviously, everything's ballpark, but I'm kind of curious. So for myself, my own curiosity, for both of you, what was the biggest single submission you guys personally took in? Like, in terms of number of cards. I don't necessarily mean biggest card. I just mean somebody brought like a stack and then they might have had to fill in that form for a while. So I'm kind of curious, what's the biggest, like, ballpark wise, what's the biggest submission you saw somebody take in on your side of things?
I think it was probably around 300 cards for one person.
Okay. So I needed a lot of those sheets, one after the other.
Yeah,
Well,
one
you
guy.
pre-filled it.
Yeah, you said that. This was great. I won't mention names, obviously, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah, for
great.
sure. That's why I'm saying I'm not talking about specifics of cards.
Yeah,
I'm just talking somebody brought a big old stack and they said, I want to grade all this stuff.
I had a chance, and it was different service levels, and it was everything else, and it was actually he's playing hockey right now,
Mhm.
and it was his mother, and she was super nice. Luke already knew them, anyways, but she was sitting there, and she had stacks of cards and different submissions because it was like this was dual value service, this was economy, this was bulk 79 back, and she had the stacks, and I was just so impressed by her when I'm looking over, and she had that must have been 300-400 cards, anyways, Luke, that order. So
I
it was a
think so.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot.
Right, right. So same answer for you, Brad. Is that right in the ballpark there?
Yeah, we had a couple of people that were dropped off cards that were like storefronts that had them all filled out and had everything done at psacard.com. So there was a few that were larger, but that was more or less they just saved from mailing it to us.
Mhm.
But I think 300 would probably be in that range to say.
Yeah.
Um,
And obviously
yeah,
that
that
adds
was
up as part of it. And there's probably a bunch that are, a dozen cards or a couple of dozen cards and thereabouts. But all those add up. You
yeah,
start stacking those up. After a while, it gets to be a lot of cards.
yeah.
So One Little Hawk says, you're all pros, super patient, accommodating. Thank you for that. Very kind words. So Eric has his choice. Now, the question was, what is the more interesting / cool? So that leaves your room. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can just be interesting or cool. It can be whatever kind of catches your eye, what tickled your fancy. So let me go Luke first and then Brad.
I don't know. I can't remember. Usually, I don't remember the cards that get submitted. Like an order number, and then put it away, and then move on to the next one, and keep going. But yeah, I can't really say, to be honest.
All right. Brad, what do you got? What are you thinking?
There's 4 or 5 guys that submitted their own cards, which I really enjoy. A couple CFL guys that played in the CFL dropped off their cards. We had another guy that was an Iron Man in the Iron Man, and he had his card, and he wanted to grade it. 3 or 4 other NHL guys that were former players in the 70s, 80s that dropped off their cards, which is pretty cool. I enjoy seeing that.
Which adds an interesting wrinkle. Like that's under the cool category. It's kind of a different kind of thing.
So we have 52 Tops mantles. I mean, I don't think there's no hockey card from 51 up that we didn't accept.
Yeah.
That would be a key card. I mean, we have at least 200, maybe I'm going to say at least 200 Gretzky rookies, maybe even more.
That was the running joke for me because I came by different times. Like I would visit you guys, I'd go and hang out a little bit, chat for a couple of minutes, and then I'd leave you to do your thing because I was walking around the show floor chatting with folks and doing all that. But at the same time, every single time I was there was at least one Gretzky rookie physically on the table. Like somebody was submitting a Gretzky rookie every single time I came by. And I must have come by a couple of dozen times over the course of 3 days, and it didn't matter. Every single time, randomly. It could be at any time, beginning of the show, middle of the show, end of the show, and I would see a Gretzky rookie on the table, minimum one.
I think this time.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Luke.
I think this time there was more Gretzky rookies than there were the last show. And the last show, I thought there was a lot. Although this time, there's less of them that were in screw downs than there were the last show. So.
Oh, actually, can I give it a little story? Let me actually share a little story because, as I said, you guys were working the booth. I wasn't working the booth. I was just kind of hanging around, and we were doing some other stuff, and we'll figure some of that out later. But I was kind of mostly doing my own thing, chatting with folks. But I was by the booth one time, and Sherry was actually with a gentleman, and he had a card. I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was like an ore card. It was something, but it was inside of this really stupid, like click-together holder. A plastic one. I'd seen them before, but it had been a long time since I'd seen one. It's actually like a snap together. But it's stubborn. This stupid thing is stubborn as hell to crack it open. And basically, I was trying to figure it. I was looking at it, and I think Sherry was playing around with it. And it's something like that. Exactly.
I can't get it out. I can't get this Pavel Bure rookie out.
Wait, really?
This is my card. And
Brad, I will share with you the secret. I got it out. So there is a way to. There's a million ways to do it realistically. But we were trying to figure it out, like in a pinch, what's the best way to do it without damaging the damn card. So I was sitting there trying to like maneuver it around. I'm like, it should just clip off. So anyway, what I ended up doing, please, I've been around a lot of cards. I don't recommend, do not do this at home. So took a flathead screwdriver, put it between the two pieces there, wedge it in, and what you do, be careful because plastic flying, be careful. But the idea is to basically break the tab and then do it on the form. So break the 4 tabs so that it basically just comes apart. So we kind of had to figure it out by looking at it. So I had to very carefully kind of do it. I was able to figure it out. So I was able to figure it out, and I was able to escape the card, extract it with no damage. Nobody's eyes got taken out. We're cool. But it's a stupid holder. Like, it's dumb. It was designed by a moron.
So I'm glad that you're telling me this, because I still
Yes.
feel like there's no way that you can just maneuver this sucker.
I don't think so. Like, I was playing around with it. It was stuck. Like, it was
Okay,
solid.
I agree.
Yeah, but a flat head, and you should be able, if you can wedge it between the two, but
Yeah.
break it so that the plastic comes off, but do it on 4, because you're gonna have to do it on 4 of them, and then after that you should be able to pry it without any additional craziness. That should let you escape it.
That's hilarious that you brought that up, because last week I was like, because I collect raw beret rookies. It's just a thing that, anyways, I won't get into that. And I'm like, I was going to throw it out. I was just like, I'm so frustrated with this, but I'm like, I can't. It's a beret rookie.
You should have had it at the expo. I'm the professional. I extracted the damn thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no idea who developed those holders. It was developed by the devil. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so I would say that's kind of interesting. Now, it's not something that I saw people submit, but I kind of want to look into the possibility. So I showed it off when I showed what I picked up. But I picked up this, I think it's 87 or 88 Drakes. Sorry, 87 Stewart. So Macho Man and Elizabeth. So what's interesting about this one is I didn't know too much about the issue, but I thought it was really cool. Now this one, I've seen one in a PSA holder. I've seen one in a PSA 10, but it doesn't have the part at the bottom here. So that was actually part of a sweepstakes giveaway. So you could spell out WWF, and obviously that's the W. So if you could get the 3 of them, you could actually have a chance to win, and you could fill out all the stuff in the back and do it. So I'm actually kind of curious, because this required like a larger holder. But it's Macho and Elizabeth, right at Macho's the peak of his powers. And I double checked the time period. It's like, yeah, Macho was champion here, because it basically says, new heavyweight champion. So it'd been right around the time he won. So probably WrestleMania 4 when he won the tournament. So right around that time period. I go, I don't know. It's pretty sweet. Kind of like that. Yeah. But I got it with the tab. I got it with the little contest tab at the bottom. Take that, other PSA 10 guy.
It's funny when you say the coolest card too, by far, that I didn't have a chance to talk to them, but I corresponded via email, and Kevin got to talk to them more than I did. There was 2 young boys that came in with their father. I can't remember his name right now, but he had an illustrator card, a Pokemon illustrator card, because he finished 2nd in the World Championships of Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
And so he wanted to submit it to grade it. So we took that. Obviously, it's a very valuable card. Kevin interacted with them, and Kevin was right in his glory. But
Sure.
That's pretty exciting. So I'm excited to see when that comes back. And also from that standpoint, I don't know if you know this, Carlos, but I want to kind of educate myself a little bit on the Pokemon side. I was like, how do you become the 2nd best player in the world? Like, how do you play Pokemon? Like, is it a game of luck? Is there skill? Like, I don't understand how the game actually works. It's kind of, I guess it's like my cricket, which I never really understood how cricket is, but I'm actually going to take the time and try to learn this, because it was they were great 2 young guys, and I'd like to know. So
Kevin was so proud that you're going to become a Pokemon master. So Dave here. Good evening, Dave. Absolutely.
Hey, Dave.
By the way, I want to say, Dave, and we'll probably bring it up on Friday. By the way, thank you very much for the thoughtful comments as always. I did appreciate you bringing it, because Dave always brings in a little history as well into a lot of his comments. So I do appreciate that. So it's always good. So I replied back to it, and hopefully you kind of understand where I'm coming from. And we'll have more of a chat about it. We can talk more about it on Friday. But I want to thank you for a very thoughtful and illuminating comment. Some of the stuff I remembered, but a little bit here at a time. So it's always nice to get a refresher from somebody who's got a little fresher of mind. So it's really good. It was very helpful. So thank you again for that, Dave. So Bobby just asking, any rare cards submitted that you'd not seen before? So anything that was more obscure that you hadn't seen? Other than my Macho Man card with the tab, that is now the rarest and most important Macho Man card in history.
No, nothing that I can think of, but I mean, we're in the process of entering the cards into the system. So that's usually where you get to see everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
plus my gaming pool holes. So we got the gaming pool holes.
Yeah.
So you get a chance to see that a little closer later.
The Iron Man cards, I didn't even know there was Iron Man cards. That was pretty cool. That's something that I didn't know, and I'm assuming PSA does grade them, but that will be more in for next week's episode. I'm sure there's going to be some cards that I just completely stumped on as we're entering them in. So as you can imagine, like I said, with those 10,000 cards back and having 20,000 cards to enter, and our team of 4. Kevin's working on his. I'm here. I have another gentleman, Lloyd Gardner, who's actually helping me out now, which is a saving grace. And Sherry's on a plane heading to Vancouver. Luke will be in Vancouver. So, and yeah, it's going to take us a little bit of money. We're going to have all the cards from the expo shipped out to PSA, hopefully by the middle of next week. We were aiming to have them all out by Monday, but I think that might be pushing a little bit. So it's probably going to be Wednesday, but we're definitely going to have everything from economy above. That's what we're working on first. And then we'll tackle the bulk orders next. So.
And once we get to that, that'll be down the road, because I think it was economy, I want to say. I put in one of the little 3 slips of papers that I showed off. I put some of my key PC Medanos. I had to go on the higher tier because they didn't belong in the bulk. You can't put it there. I could have tried it, but I would have been upcharged anyway. So you may as well put it in the proper level. Just be done. Like, trust me, the ones that I put in there, and I'll reveal more when we get the chance. But the ones that I put in there, I have to put them there. I wouldn't be able to get away with it. I could be sneaky, but not that sneaky. Paul here says, how many yellow top loaders did you see? I saw a ton of yellow top loaders, Paul. A ton.
That's so good. I just had a whole batch. I was taking out like submissions, so we have a lot of these.
Oh, you got the little ice brick thing there going on.
Yeah. So again, we don't. If you submit a card, we always say like you have to take it out of this. But the guy said, "Look, just take it out for me." So obviously we do that. With that, and I just had a ton of yellow. I thought I still had them there. There was one guy's order that had like 15 of the yellowest, like the worst yellowed top loaders you could ever possibly see.
Nice.
And yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it happens. And especially at that card show, you can tell who hasn't cycled their inventory in a long time. So Bobby here says, Carlos, I want to find the display box for the Stewart Wrestling set. If you do, I'd love to see it. I think that'd be really cool. I would love to see it. No question. So CC, good evening, gents. Late to live, no worries. Many thanks to Brad and his team. Did my first submission to the expo. Good to hear. And I have to say, everyone at the move is extremely helpful and very kind. So very good. Thank you, CC. Glad that you had a good experience. That's good to know.
Thank you.
Any tall boy top loaders, Brad?
Do you know what I do? I got some for you. I have those here. I'm going to make a little note. I'll bring those into the shop.
Yeah. And actually, I'm actually not joking. I didn't want to bother with it while we were at the show because I needed to do more research on the set. First, I needed to double check. So they do, in fact, grade this. So I was able to confirm they did grade it. But like I said, they graded it without a little tab at the bottom, which I think is interesting. But obviously, this is a bigger holder. Now, actually, question for you. If it's something like this, it's oversized. I think there's an oversized like level or something, isn't there? Am I right? Am I wrong on this? So for something like this, it'd be a little bit different because it's more of a postcard size kind of holder anyway that you need for something like this.
Yeah, so that goes up to this. That'll fit in this. What's that one called again, Luke? It's the
jumbo.
No, just jumbo. Yeah, it's the one in between. And then there's the super jumbo one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that at some point, I'll be honest, like I don't mind having this top loader. Obviously, is doing the job right now, no problem. I wouldn't mind having it in the holder. So this is maybe something that maybe for the next time I submit something, because I just think it's cool. I love that this is Macho Man in his glory with Elizabeth and the whole 9 yards for WWF/WWE fan from back in the day. This right here is classic. And Macho Man for me was one of the best. So I enjoy that. So when I saw it, I was like, I gotta buy this.
So I think for now you can only submit. The only service level that's open for jumbo is economy. Mm-hmm. So at some point, I'm sure, and then in the future, they'll open up value or bulk with an additional charge for that. But right now, it's $70 to.
Yeah, I think for that I would wait because I don't think I think it's really cool, but I don't think it warrants, it necessitates. So actually that goes back to what we've talked about a lot on the show. There's a right time and a right place. There's a correct time. For me, I can leave it in the top loader for a while. I would like to have it in that lower price point because it's going to be a PC piece, just something for me for fun. So there's no hurry on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look here. So this is kind of what we're talking about here. Should I email Sherry now regarding the missing info from the submission form, or wait until PSA contacts later? Given that you've said all the contacts, you can probably. Do you want the information now, or can
we're okay? We'll make sure we reach out to you once it comes back. Because if right now we can put it down, but you're 100% protected. The other thing that we do, and Carlos witnesses, when we take an order, we don't send it until we have confirmation. Mm-hmm. So when you'll get an email from us after it's at the UPS store, ready to ship to you, it's kind of redundant for a lot of people, but we put that in place to make sure you are home and to make sure all your information is correct. So we have lots of what do you what's the proper term to use that?
Safeguards.
Safeguards in place. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can testify because we literally showed the cards that I had. And at some point I was like, hey guys, so are you going to charge me for the cards and do I get the cards? Because we saw them. We all got a chance to look at them. And it's like, huh. And then it turned out that the email was just a couple of characters off. That was the issue. It was just the email was a couple of characters off, so I never got the invoice. So then afterwards we took care of it and settled up, and I got my cards. So everything all good. So actually, let me quickly touch on this one. Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Can I bring my card in a screw down holder? Well, technically you can. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll have a screwdriver.
There you go. And at least now Brad knows the secret of the flathead, the power of the flathead, buddy.
Hell yeah.
You're gonna need it. So Dave here says, how was the attendance at the show? Generally good show. So for the second question, I'm gonna say yes. I felt it was really good. I actually want to follow up with Menzie and see, because he would know the best, right? Because he has the pre-order data and he has the data for turnstile, so to speak. You know, how many tickets did he sell? So he can definitely give us a bit of a gauge comparatively to the last couple of shows. So that'll be like the definitive answer on this. I felt like the foot traffic was strong. Thursday, I think, was pretty calm, pretty chill, all things considered, but stuff was flowing. People were definitely around. Friday felt pretty strong when I was there. Saturday felt pretty strong when I was there. And Sunday felt surprisingly strong because when I was there, it was like, oh, it's real busy. This is pretty busy. Because normally on Sunday, tradition in the past, I would remember some dealers would start packing up. They'd already kind of start getting ready. Obviously, stuff was happening. I think, my opinion, I think Menzie's strategy of having so many quality signers throughout the show helped drive a lot of people in the door. And while they were around, that gave them plenty of opportunity to look around and go, huh, maybe I should pick up some stuff. Because there's so much stuff available. So I felt like attendance was good, and I felt like it was a good show. Guys, any alternative thoughts? Your lineup was busy, so at least that portion of it was attended well.
Luke?
I think I was surprised that it was steady.
Yeah.
Like steady throughout the whole, like as soon as it opened up to the end, when I lifted my head up to see people, I mean, down the rows, you can see that people were all down there, right? So I thought it was good that it's steady throughout the thing. And I thought actually this one was, I mean, obviously the November one's always a busier one than the two, right? So, yeah, I thought this was, compared to the other ones, and obviously the last couple ones, November's have been like after COVID, you know, things like that. So I think this one was a little bit better, and it's getting stronger for sure.
Yeah, very good. I kind of agree with that. So I think, like, overall, Dave, my answer would be genuinely, like, having attended a lot of these shows, I felt like it was strong. I felt like it was good. I don't know where, but I felt like it was strong. So we'll see. Obviously, I'd actually like to find out. Like I said, I think I'll reach out to Menzie to get kind of a clarification. I'd love to know from his perspective how it felt, because it felt like a success. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it turned out from his perspective.
What was that number of the last one? It was like 13,000.
It was probably something in that ballpark. I don't remember the exact, but it was a strong number for like the spring show. It was a strong number.
If it was 13, I'm going to say this one was 18.
Yeah, I wouldn't shock me if it pushed 20.
Yeah,
like there were some times where like it feels really, because apparently now being that I'm Carlos, so being Carlos, it's certain privileges. I waltz in at the crack of noon. I ain't going in the morning with the commoners. That ain't happening. So I'm coming in at my time on Carlos' time when I damn well feel like it and I've had my brunch. These are critical important things, people. Critical important things. However, from what I understood from people that I was talking to, is on a couple of days there was a pretty serious lineup. There was some craziness going on. It was pretty strong. Like, and as soon as you get a lineup to get in the door, that's when you know you're going to be off to a strong start as far as the show is concerned. And like I said, your mileage may vary for the dealers, but it definitely felt like there were moments that the crowd was pretty strong through the aisles. At least that was my assessment, my opinion. So real quick here. So Katie Collectibles is here. Good evening. Couldn't hop on tonight. Hope it's going well. Absolutely. Thank you for hopping in. It's just an idea. Assuming you have permission from the submitter, would be nice to see unique and amazing cards that are returned. Maybe dedicate a few minutes on each episode. We always kind of play around with that idea. We've talked about it. We have to be extremely careful from the permission. You said the correct point there. Because if it's somebody's card and they know it's their card, you got to be careful being like, are you okay with people seeing it? We did that for one where I had my submission, but I'm literally on the show. So I can be like, yeah, Brad, bring the cards on. Let's see the cards. So it's okay because obviously I'm the owner. So I can make that call. If it's Brad's cards or Luke's cards or Kevin's cards, yeah, sure. Why not? But if it's somebody outside of that or somebody that isn't like involved necessarily in this, wait, you're going to show a bunch of strangers my cards? You have to be kind of careful with that. And you have to be respectful of that for the customer.
Do you know what was bad as being a collector and the PSA junkie that I am? So you get, after this whole adventure of the show and everything else, you get home, there's 10,000 PSA graded cards here, and not one of them was mine. Like not one like single order of, it could have been, a bulk order of 5 cards, something just to make me get my fix. I opened every box and nothing was mine. So that was a little
disappointing.
It was very disappointing.
There you go.
I had to go to the bank today to pick this up to bring it to.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
I want to zoom in just so we can see it a little closer. Oh, there you go. So that's a cup. Is that a cup RPA there? Yeah, cable card.
Cup RPA. PSA
Nice.
10, yeah.
Nice.
I think it's still Pop 1 or whatever. So some guy in Vancouver submitted it, yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice.
He's excited to get it, so.
That's one of the other things, Carlos, too. So Luke started this on the last Vancouver show.
Mm-hmm.
We added another element to customer service.
Okay.
Luke decided, he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go rent a car. I'm going to fly out there and I'm going to deliver cards to as many people as I possibly can. So he actually did that. So this time, him and Sherry are going out there again. And I think we're going to say 90% of everyone's orders from the last Poster show that we're delivering them. So people can pick them up in person. I mean, that's a big thing for people where they don't have to worry. That's a monster card that Luke just showed. And it's, you know what? He's going to hand deliver it right to the gentleman. Yeah, it was a guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that is a worthy card. Like those things go for a pretty penny, certainly, and it's a quality card. So I'll give it that. That's very interesting. Very interesting. So we're gonna need a lot of like buttons for to make sure I invoice Eric so the guys can get the Learjet. We're gonna have to upgrade it to the Lear too, just to get the appropriate space. We're gonna need a lot more like buttons to get the Lear. So Eric here says too many people. They got in my way and stole all the cards I wanted. It's unfortunate. It happens, buddy. And I like a little banter back and forth. It's okay. We're used to being a break. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention something where Kevin and I were chatting separately on a thing. And by the way, Brad, you would appreciate this. So Kevin actually shot me. Did he tell you about this card that he showed me? So he sent me a picture of a card. And he goes, I know you're a big fan. I don't remember how he phrased it, but I'm paraphrasing. But he basically knows, I know you're a big fan of one of these guys. So he showed me this card that was a dual memorabilia, dual autograph. And it's Brett Favre and your boy, the faux goat on the other side of that one. The faux goat. I can't believe it's not goat. That guy. So anyway, but I didn't recognize the specific card. But I knew by looking at it, I got a general sense of the era. Like you could tell. I think it was apparently in 04, so still fairly early. Brady card. And obviously Favre was still in with the Packers, still kind of at the peak of his powers. Hobby-wise, his hobby would have been very strong around that time period still. But that's a big card. Like you think 2004, you got dual autograph, dual memorabilia, these two guys. So Brady was still, by that point, he would have won a couple of Super Bowls by that point. And Favre already had 3 MVPs and he had already done a lot of his stuff. And I think by that point, he was putting up some big numbers as far as getting up there in touchdown passes and yards. So like this was later in his career. But regardless, that's a big card. So I was able to find a little reference piece, not on eBay, but I was able to find it in one of the other auctions. And I was able to find a comp, maybe in the last year or so. But it was a couple of grand, like $2,500, $3,000, something like that. But it's a strong card. And I think it was out of 25. So dual autograph, dual memorabilia out of 25 of those guys. That's a strong card, especially in this market and with all that. So it's like, that was a biggie.
I could cut it in half and you could have half and I could have half.
I was going to say, I'll take the good half and you can have the other one. I already told him, I go, that's half a good card. So I just laughed because I go, it's a cool card. I said, that's the card that I thought was neat. It was just me getting a chance to see a picture of it. And I go, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I would think that would cost a pretty penny. That's an early Brady card, so the Brady guys would be all over that. And the fact that you've got another Hall of Famer on the other side of it, a dubious Hall of Famer at this point right now, with certain personal issues that he has to deal with. But nonetheless, 2 Hall of Fame caliber guys on that same card. That's strong, especially early for the one guy. So Josh here says the carpet was a nice touch as the floor as well. Parking was the worst that I've seen. I heard there was a big parking issue for sure. I don't know exactly what the details were, but it was pretty bad. Coolest thing I saw was a lady with a book, top 100 NHLers, and she had players sign each section. That's nice. It was neat to see. Not sure how many autographs she had or how many she needed. That's cool. That's actually pretty solid, Paul. It's great to see a busy show all weekend, which is a great indicator of how healthy the hobby is right now. Well, I was making a joke with somebody about that. I go, well, the hobby's dead, except apparently in Canada, we didn't get the memo. Like, it's supposed to be dead, y'all. I tried to tell him, it's like, you guys know it's supposed to be dead, right? What the hell are you all doing here? Get out of the way. I think, though, my assessment was, and that's kind of what I talked about in my vlogs and stuff, I felt like at the Spring Expo, I had to pull teeth to get dealers to move like $5. Like, I was absolutely pulling teeth. This time around, I negotiated on every single card I bought, and I didn't get a ton of pushback. Like, most of them were willing to at least move a little bit on price. Because last time I had to get really sneaky, really clever. It'd be like, okay, look, I'll pay you this price, throw in a blaster. Basically, I had to come up with ways of making it like, make it worth my while, man. Work with me here a little bit. This time around, everybody was willing to move on price a little bit. Like, I wasn't offering them half sticker, but they were willing to move a little bit. I go, okay, well, it makes it a hell of a lot easier for me to work with you. And most of them are like, nope, sounds good. I'll take that. Okay, well, fine. Then I guess you get money. Some white glove service. There you go. You can't see too much. I'm going to get it and sell it to Brad. There you go. At least now he's got comps. Parking was the busiest I've seen in over 20 years. I did hear about that. Yeah, I definitely heard that there were some serious parking issues. So Adam here, good evening. Hope you guys are having a good night. I am indeed. Hopefully you're having a good night as well.
I was hoping that Hobby Cop wasn't in the chat yet tonight, but he might, maybe he's working night shift patrolling keeping our streets safe here in Halifax for us. But I have an order back for him. That's why I was all excited. I just opened it up around summertime, so I'm going to bring it out to the store for him to pick up.
Nice. Okay, so I want there's one I want to talk about. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the customer appreciation night, because that was a great joy for me. No, and we must talk about customer appreciation night because I got a kick out of it. Brad, I want to get your assessment of it. What did you think of customer appreciation night?
Yeah, so
I appreciated it from one perspective.
Yeah, so obviously what we wanted to do, we wanted to have an event set up. And I've done concerts, I've done events my entire life, but we did not realize that. We thought we were going to be able to set things up a little bit more on Friday, kind of make more announcements. We were going to have a little area set up. All in all, the people that were there, Carlos, Eric, Bobby, I think Paul came down.
Well, I had to call a few of the folks in. I actually asked Eric to come by. So I won't skip ahead, but when we figured out what the situation was, that's when I actually called Eric to come and also give us a hand and partake and participate a little bit.
Yeah. So again, we made a substantial donation to. Oh man, that's terrible. I can't think the exact name of the charity. It's for concussions, for players that suffered concussions, etc. So we did that, and then we had free beer tickets. So. I think the people that were there, I just seen Eric chime in. Carlos, I told Carlos to have as many as he possibly could have in that hour and a half time frame, which was good.
And I also taught the young man there at the bar how to pour properly.
Yeah,
I gave him a tutorial on a proper pour. It was absolutely critical. I was like, no, stop what you're doing. Please stop what you're doing. Stop that.
Yeah. So we do know that having an event during the show hours for us is absolutely impossible.
It is.
Luke and the team had to man the booth, and when we were gone, backing up. So we're definitely not going to do that. Next year, we're looking to do something after hours potentially, and
I think that will be a lot easier. Yes.
And partner with somebody, and we do it. But that's even hard because the show goes late. The show goes late on Friday, and then Saturday night we have our usual Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotian / maritime dinner. It's tradition now at Zorro's Steakhouse that myself and Sherry and Luke and Kevin was there, but we get to invite all my personal friends in the hobby for the last 30 years, talk, reminisce, and have a good time. So it's hard to incorporate all that in, especially when you're absolutely exhausted. Because we were. I don't know if you can tell right now, but Luke seems pretty good, but I tried to pull an all-nighter on Tuesday night. I got till it was 3:30 in the morning. I was like, I think I can just go through till the next day. And then my 46-year-old body said, no, idiot, go to sleep for a few hours, then start again. So,
yeah. Well, I think what's funny is that when it comes to those ones is that once the way that you guys structure it and the way you have to do it with processing so much stuff is that it runs extra time. And that's the kind of the problem, planning something out. Like it's tough enough sometimes to plan dinners and stuff anyway, even if you have the flexibility. If you're a dealer, it's difficult to do it. But if you're doing something, because as a dealer, at least you can start packing up a little bit beforehand. You can kind of have a cutoff, or after this, we'll do business right up until the line. But by that point, we're already starting to put stuff away. When you guys are taking submissions, it's paperwork, it's cards, it's stuff. Everything's got to be in its place. You can't afford to misplace something because that would be absolutely terrible. That's the exact opposite of what you want. You want everything to be secured. You want everything to be positioned so that if you need to find something, you can find it, and that's why it's absolutely critical. So it creates that additional difficult. And in the middle of the show, good luck. You basically need somebody whose only job it is to focus on that and to make sure things are organized and everybody has what they need. And it made it very tricky.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we will next time. We said, we just had a brief conversation afterwards. One thing we will add is we'll have kind of like I was using my old bar lingo, having a bar back with us, but we'll have a runner. I think it'd be a great job for Eric to come up and do. And Eric volunteered, I don't know, 50 times to help out. And we really do appreciate that, jokes aside. But we will have someone there just as a support staff, which will make things a lot easier. So
I agree with that. So
I'd say, Carlos, you could do it, but we need you at 8:00. I do know officially you are not starting your day ever until noontime. So
I don't think PSA has a big enough check to make that happen. It's like my employer barely has a big enough check, and trust me, they have a good market cap. They barely have a big enough check to cut to make that one go. Yeah, Carlos really enjoyed the appreciation night. Yannick was obsessed about this. I went and did a live stream right after. Like I don't know about y'all. I went and did a live stream, and by the way, I had another beer before I went to the live stream. It's like a good warm up for me. I don't know what y'all are doing. I still have the drink tickets. Are they still good?
Yeah, exactly.
Eric enjoyed himself. Yes. Yeah, it was actually good. We were able to do the live stream. Eric came on after. I gave it a little bit of time because I wanted to go get a bite. Because it's important to have a little downtime in between. And I did have Cards and Comics from YouTube join me, and it was a good conversation, a lot of fun. Had a good chat with him after, actually. He's been in the hobby a while, so a really good conversation. Had a good fun with it. Do we know when the Edmonton Expo will be yet? Not yet. I think that's going to have to be scheduled. We did mention it, though, when we had the conversation with Menzie, that I think, I asked him, are you still going to planning on running like a schedule like the way you're doing it? Because it's tricky. Obviously, you're expanding the amount of things you have to plan for. Every additional show is more planning, more figuring out venues, autographed guests, all that stuff. He seems to enjoy kind of doing this run of shows. So far it's working for him. The last Edmonton one, from what I recall, was pretty successful. So I would think he would want to run it again, especially if it's profitable. I would certainly think he'd want to run it again.
Yeah, I think, what did he say? Did he mention it on the show, or maybe when I was talking to him? I think he was hoping to announce it in the next week, but it was going to be based upon if the Toronto show can go in May, then Edmonton would fall after. I think Edmonton potentially in June, or maybe even Edmonton was in April, but I think he's coordinating with the Montreal show as well. So I think that will have the variables.
Well, I think in our market, go ahead, Luke.
No, I think he said something about May for the Edmonton show, and then the Toronto was possibly the end of May or June, somewhere in there. But he wasn't sure exactly the date yet.
Yeah.
Right.
All I was going to say was that the way our marketplace works is that you can't stack too many similar size shows together. The market can't absorb it, because we've got really the two big provinces. It's Ontario and Quebec. Those are the two big provinces. There are people in these other places. There are plenty of people in Alberta, but it's centered around certain cities. You got to stay in Calgary, Edmonton, and surrounding area, because that is your big chunk of the population. So you can run that. You can run Vancouver. You can run parts of BC. But again, it's centered in certain. We got a lot of land territory to cover, and the people are pretty much in certain specific pockets. GTA, you can play around a little bit. That's great, but you can't run too many shows because you can fatigue the market real quick with that. That's why we make the joke about it and have fun with it. But we couldn't do a Dallas every 2 months. I don't think that would be too much. That would oversaturate the market. And you want to still be able to run shows in Montreal and have that. You want to still be able to run shows out west and be able to do that. And the more shows you're trying to run, the more you're spacing out guests and everything. Otherwise, you're going to be having the same guests at every show. That ain't going to fly.
Yeah. I like the idea personally. I like the 2 shows in BC that Dale does. I love the 2 Toronto Expos. I think they're perfect timing. The November fall, and then the May one, and 2 in Montreal. I mean, Montreal's half the size of the other. I guess no, I shouldn't say that. Montreal is probably the same size as both. So what do you think? Looks like roughly the same size.
I thought it was about the same size as Edmonton,
Yeah.
which Edmonton was a little bit smaller, I think, than I think it could be. But yeah, because it was basically the 2 rinks, right? And same thing with Montreal is the same thing like that too. 2 soccer fields, right? So Bosa show, yeah, I think it's probably equal to about the Bosa show around that size. Yeah.
I loved both myself and Sherry. I think ease and what's the proper way to say it is we loved our hotel. It was right next to the show. There was tons of amenities around there. We just walked from the hotel across to the show. I loved everything about Edmonton. That was my first show in Edmonton, and we had a blast. So
where do they actually house the show?
Luke, you can.
It's called Millennium Place.
Okay.
So it's a sports complex, and they have several rinks and stuff, and they combine the 2 rinks together to make one venue.
Got it.
So the history of the show, like it used to be, that was like the big show in Western Canada, and some things had happened previous to it, and then Steve took over it last year, which was his first time. So, like I said, I think there's definitely room to grow, and I think it's just a matter of just learning and what Steve's obviously a smart man. He'll figure everything out and get that show to be, I think, like a good size for the western side of Canada, opposed to just having it in Toronto, right? So
sure, no, like I said, from his standpoint, his business is running these shows. Like at the end of the day, as long as he can run the show and it's profitable for him, he'll run shows where he can and where people want them, because that's his business. That's what he does. But the reason I kind of was also kind of curious is that I'd only really been out to Edmonton one time. If the family wanted to go out, it's just kind of a different thing. Look, we spent the whole time at the mall, man. That's why I was like, I'm sorry. I there's allegedly more Edmonton. Not familiar with it. Never heard of it. We were in the mall. We were busy. If you've seen that mall, you could spend a lot of time there and never have to leave that ecosystem. So Robert here says, I enjoyed the time with the meet and greet. It was awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, there was the meet and greet with the Hansons, right? With the Hanson folks from the cast from it. I think you guys probably have better pictures, but I was able to pull one. And Brad, I think we got your best side on this one too. I think this is great. This will be excellent.
I don't even know what this is going to be.
Oh, check it out. Like you were staring right at the camera. It's beautiful.
That's good.
Yep. So there you go. So anyway, so the guys were there. They were posing for pictures with different folks. I got in there. Eric got in there, and I think Yannick got in there as well. So a bunch of us got the pictures with them. But yeah, the guys were there with their Charlestown Chiefs jerseys and everything, and people had the chance to get their pictures taken. So, and again, you had what you can't see just off screen is that over to the side of it, basically off screen is where the bar was. So that's where I taught the young man to do the proper pour. But you had the beers right there. You could just hand the drink ticket. Boom. There you go.
That's good. And you know what's funny? I actually gave the guy back. A friend of mine, true hockey historian, knows everything about the game of hockey and trivia. He's one of the brightest minds I've ever seen when it comes to that. He gave me 3 McFarlane figures. I told him only 2 of the Hansons were there, but I lugged them all the way to the show. I brought them down. I think you were with me, Carlos, when I took out the McFarlanes and I was going to get the guys to sign them.
I think so, yeah.
So I lugged those things for them, and they said, sorry, Brad, we can't sign those.
Oh, it was a license. Like, it was a thing. I think it was some kind of a compensation thing.
Yeah, he was like,
kind of
it's the only thing in the world we've refused to sign is McFarlane figures. So I took them, and he goes, but instead, they gave me a copy of the script. So I give it to the guy today, and I was looking at him, and I said, you're probably not going to believe this, but here's the McFarlane's back. I did take them, but they wouldn't sign them. And he kind of looked at me like, you know what? Just tell me the truth, Brad. Like, you didn't want to lug those things all the way to Toronto. I'm like, no, seriously. This is exactly. But what they did, they gave me a free signed script, and I gave it to him, and his eyes lit up. He just was ecstatic. So. Yeah,
it's like trust me, I'm not going to make it up to you by giving you a signed script. It's like, no, this was what I got in return. Like, at least you got something. We tried.
Yeah.
So it works out. So Kevin here says, excuse to fly Edmonton to hang out with Luke. There you go, Luke. You're good to go. Edmonton did fill full with rinks, so definitely room for growth. I think solid. That's fair. Look, I would venture out, although to be fair, I would venture out like what it was like in the summertime, the last Edmonton one, right?
April. It
Okay,
was
so
cold.
April, yeah.
Yeah.
April.
Which
It's
isn't
April,
so
yeah.
bad. I just wouldn't go when it's cold again. For whatever reason, the flights were cheap and everything. It's like, oh, but it's so cold. I don't need to go somewhere else to get more cold. I have my own. I don't need to go there for that.
But it's funny when you start to do those things and when you travel a lot and the things that if you have a good base, like if you have a good venue, you have good restaurants around, you have ease of getting in and out. All those things make a big difference to a successful show. I think you see it even more side in the US. Like the National in Chicago
Yes.
is absolutely, you can't get a better venue. Like from the hotels, convention center, restaurants, everything, just everything about it is perfect for a big event. Then you see the other side, like Atlantic City, which is just completely the opposite of that.
Yeah,
So when
not
I look
great.
at the venue in Montreal, the venue stinks. The guys know that they're moving it. No, like it really does, and they know that.
Brad
You know
going
what
for
I
the jugular. I like it.
mean? No, but they're switching venues. It's going to a new
Fair
venue.
enough.
Like it just does. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nothing to do with the guys. Nothing to do with the show itself. But the venue does stink. So I think those things all make a difference. And like for Edmonton, if it wasn't in a good venue, I'd be like, now I got to be careful. I don't want to mess with Luke, but I'd probably like, I don't want to go back if it wasn't good. All I can think about is awesome hotel, great food, great restaurants, easy venue. I'm in 100% to go to Edmonton for any show. So
Yeah. Under the right circumstances, I'm fine with it. Like, but look, all I'm saying is the mall has an indoor beach. That's what I'm
yeah,
trying to say. They got indoor beach. They got indoor driving range. If you get really frustrated at Eric, you can go upstairs to the shooting gallery and shoot pictures of Eric. I mean, go on. So you can, because they got guns there. Eric will get it. Eric would be excited. We should send him to Edmonton. I think that'd be great. Fantastic. And then we'll have him eaten by caribou. Moving on. So Adam here says in Edmonton, I stayed at a hotel attached by a quarter of the venue. No cold. That's wise. But no, to your point though about the national is I think that's where next year. I think next year they're doing Chicago again. So I think that's wise. I think it's wise to consistently include Chicago in the rotation because most people like that venue, especially with all the hotels nearby and everything. We won't announce anything for a while, but there's a greater than 0% chance I might have pre-booked that hotel months ago. Just saying.
I love it.
Moving on. So we'll figure it out. Between now and then, the thing I got to think about is travel arrangements. Again, allegedly.
Luke's in. Like Luke's going this year, 100%.
I'm gonna go, yeah.
Apparently,
First
look,
first one.
apparently, look. All you need to know, my chat was very excited about even the potential possibility, and there's a bunch of other YouTubers and stuff that I know. It's like, Carlos, are you coming? It's like, look, I'll come in. I'll let y'all know. I'll let you know when the signings are. Look, if you guys had just done, my thing is like, look, if you just done Vegas, Brad, I could do 8 a.m. Wait a minute. So I'm in from the casino. I finished the tournament. It's like, that's how I do 8 a.m. I do 8 a.m. because I was up at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 1 a.m. That's how I do 8. Vegas, man. Vegas. Anyway. All right, cool. So real quick, let's start winding her down a little bit because I know the guys are a little bit worn down and tired, and I got a couple of things that I need to do as well. But if there's any other questions, I wanted to make sure we talked about the appreciation night because that was fun. That was a good time. I think we had some fun with that. We made the most out of it. We still had some fun, I would say. Meeting the cast of the Slapshot was great, so we were able to get some pictures with that. That was fun. Obviously, hang out with you guys when I could, at least come by to say hello. Tried to do our best with that, but they're super busy during the show, so we know that's going to be a thing. I'm just trying to think. Was there anything else from the show that kind of stuck out that I was thinking about? I didn't really do anything with the. Oh, I did stand up Mike Modano. do you want to give that story, Brad?
I was not going to say a single word, but then I realized that, like at the beginning of the show, I don't know if anyone noticed, but Carl's like, I do not do anything before noon when I am not at work, and he actually does mean that because I know this now. I should have known before, and he did mention the day before, but I kind of didn't think that he was actually serious about it. So we had it lined up with Modano that Carlos to meet a meet and greet and kind of little photo at the end of the day. It was very. We had everything lined up.
They should have told Mike to reschedule to a better time for me. 2 or 3 p.m. and perfect. Great. Do it then.
So it was told, yeah, just bring your guy down towards the end of the session. So did it go from 10 to 11?
It was like 10 or 11, yeah.
10 to
because
11.
I think they had a Q&A somewhere in there. I remember something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So at 11 o'clock or 5 to 11, I get a message, and I didn't actually see it. I didn't even know at the time until afterwards. But
Mhm.
I guess Mike Carlos stood up Mike Medana. He kind of was waiting for someone to come down, and he didn't show up. So just to add that to the because I'm Carlos
Well, listen,
repertoire.
next time, look, if Mike Medina wants an autograph from me, he's got to come at my time. It's got to
Yeah.
be on my time and my schedule. That's just how it's got to be. It is what it is. So Robert here says the most fun at the show is hanging out with the Nova Scotia Mafia. Looking forward to the next show. There you go. Eric says, Carlos discussed me in the regular. Have you looked in a mirror? Have you watched yourself eat a chocolate stick, sir? You should not be able to be disgusted by just about anything. Moving on. Bobby here says, Dave Martell ran the Summit Show in Edmonton starting back in 08. Went to the first one. It was great. There you go. Got it. Thank you, Bobby. Beautiful. But yeah,
Can someone
no,
comment on that too? Isn't I think at the show, one of the summit shows is where someone had their display, and I forget who it was. Bobby, I'm sure could answer this, but they had the guy's collection consisted of every Vesna trophies winner, everyone that won the Vesna trophy, they had a game used jersey from their rookie season.
okay.
I think it was I remember they were sending me, Brian Fancy, a friend of mine, was sending me pictures of it, and it was the coolest display. Something that I'd love to be able to see that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say though, jokes aside, kind of as a lesson for the joke about standing up Medano, I think a lot of folks, and I can actually parlay this into a legitimate lesson. So let's give a legitimate lesson here for a second. I think a lot of folks get so amped up and excited about the show that they'll run to like get right first in line. It's like, guys, unless you're looking for something really picky in particular, you can come in a little bit after, and the show runs long enough that you can get a lot of stuff done. Now, mind you, if you've been to as many shows as I have, it's a lot easier. You learn how to scan tables and do all that very quickly. You can be very efficient. Let's put it that way. You can be extremely efficient, and you can still go by and say hello to a lot of folks. The thing is, while I was on the show floor, I didn't attend a good chunk. Like I literally, outside of Sunday, I did not spend 1 second on the show floor before the hour of noon. Not 1 second on any of the days. And that ain't changing in the foreseeable future either. The only difference was Sunday was because that was my checkout. So I did my checkout, left stuff at the hotel, and then came down to go hang out with some folks. So I was already up and I was doing my stuff. So because they check out, I think it was 11 o'clock checkout. So I was already done before that and headed down just before. But outside of that, no. But if you want to enjoy the show experience, enjoy the show experience. Don't kill yourself. I watched some folks like stay there and not eat, not not drink water, and they would be like dead. Like literally, you could have just grabbed the spatula and taken them off the floor, and then they're like, "You're gonna be here 2 more days. What are you gonna do the next 2 days if you just killed yourself, standing around here for like 5-10 hours in the first day or the second day or whatever?" Pace yourself a little bit would be my suggestion, my advice. Like, if you're working a booth, you're working a booth. You got to do what you got to do. It is what it is. But if you're an attendee, this should be fun for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good time. Take a break. Sit down when you need to. Go get a bite to eat when you need to. There's stuff just outside the venue. This will be a thing that I'll reiterate again when we do the next show and do like kind of the prep for it. But that's my advice every single time. Unless you're setting up at a booth and you have a job to do and you're there to do something specific, you're a guest. Act like a guest. Have fun. There were good times just sitting, having a seat, chatting with some folks. We'd grab some food. We'd grab a beer. We'd sit down, overpriced convention beer, but we'd sit down and have one because they are overpriced. But you could sit down, have a drink, and also catch your breath, take a load off your feet, and then you have more. You can sustain for the rest of the show. By the end of Sunday, I walked out of the show and I was good. I went home and I unpacked my stuff, and I was fresh because I had work to do. I had other stuff I needed to do, so I couldn't afford to be dead after 3 or 4 days of being on vacation, right? Teach their own. I still got my steps in. I still did all my stuff, but it's like, I'm not going to kill myself for this, man. It's supposed to be a show. I'm supposed to be having a good time. And I did. So anyway,
I agree.
just some thoughts that I want to kind of leave you all with. Anyway, so thank you all, as always, for joining in. Great comments in the chat. Thank you all for the questions and thoughts and everything. On your way out, if you could hit the like button, we do charge Eric for it. Eric discusses himself regularly, in addition to being disgusted by just about everything else. He is a disgusting man. He offends our senses. But he pays up his bill on invoicing for the like button. So that's very important. Anyway, so are we still regular schedule for next week? We're good for that one?
Absolutely. I think we should be good, ready to roll right through. So.
All right, sounds good. So we'll keep everybody up on schedule. We did miss the 1 week as far as we did miss the 1 week, obviously, for the expo. With some luck, we're working on it. We were able to capture. I'll say this: we were able to capture some very good footage from the show. We're going to figure out what we're going to do with it. Hopefully, we'll be able to put something together that'll be fun. We may add some pieces to it after the fact just to add a little bit to it. But like, there's plenty of footage. Let's put it that way. So you'll be able to get a sense of kind of what it was like from that perspective. And hopefully we can share that on the show, on the channel here, and that's kind of the plan. Additionally, I mentioned the website that we mentioned at the beginning, psacanada.ca. I will make sure that is included in the channel, so you can check out that site. It will have order updates and things going forward. Not yet, but later on it'll be part of it. Did you want the dog to sign off too? Are we good?
That's Brady. He was just barking at you.
Well, did you tell him to do a better job signing the other half of the card?
Very much.
Awesome. Go Goat. Lies. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining in. Eric says all the like buttons. He doesn't know how to spell. His typing is terrible. Autocorrect is horrific for him. He says all the like buttons. Anyway, we'll be back next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, same time, and then we'll be going forward. And if there's any change in schedules, we get closer to holidays, we'll let you know in advance.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have yourself a good night. We'll catch you in the next one.